All right, today we go full Flintstone. Pump to pump.
Where are you going?
Today, I know she's been excited about this one, so tell me about it.
Ooh, today's fun. We're cutting out all of the rust in the floorboards.
Sorry, she's popular. She's got to take a phone call. Right?
We're cutting out all this nasty rust in the floorboards today. We're going to start in the front and work our way back.
Yeah.
But we're going to take a break for the middle part and reinforce with some scrap metal so that there's not too much flex in the frame.
Yeah, I think in a restored car, you want to you would do a ton of bracing to make sure the body doesn't flex on you whenever you're cutting all of this structural stuff out. But the reality is, this thing's hanging by a thread right there. This is literally what's connecting the front of it. So there's really no structural integrity here now, except for the center section that seems to be solid. So we're going to cut, all of the flooring out, front and back, and then kind of leave this center section for last. And then before we cut that center section out, we're gonna just take some scrap metal and brace it up. But the reality is, on a race car, we're mainly focused on wheel geometry, suspension geometry, and that kind of stuff. So if the body moves, this thing is ancient. There's no way it's spec'd out the way it came off the factory floor. So if it moves on us a little bit, that's fine. But if we were doing a real badass restoration where everything's perfect, we want to make sure we brace up the car really well. But the reality is, this thing's far from OEM spec with all of the rust and rot. So we're just going to do our best to kind of preserve what's left, but we're not going to spend too much time on bracing things to death.
Just a few here and there.
Yep. So we're going to go ahead and get started. This is one of those projects where it sounds fun until you get into it. So we'll report back in an hour and tell you how much we hate what we just started. So, all right.
See ya.
That's me cutting stuff. All right, so the first thing we got to do is we got to figure out a path of what we're going to cut out. Some stuff is obvious, but some stuff we just kind of are drawing where we want to cut out. So you can see that it's got some rot here, it's got some rot there. So I've taken a silver Sharpie and kind of with a metal ruler kind of traced out where we're going to cut out. And you can see, we're going to cut along here. So yeah, we got a good amount of the floor to replace, pretty much all of the floor. We're just going to leave. We are going to leave the transmission tunnel because we're trying to stay within unlimited class rules, and it requires the OEM transmission tunnel to be in place. Yeah, so now that we got it all traced out, we're gonna, I guess, get cut. You are deep in it. Are you our new engine?
I am the engine. It's Flintstone's power.
So, what are you doing right now?
I'm removing all these brackets that held hoses and wires and all kinds of stuff, so that we can clean up this section and make more room.
Yeah, so the idea is to have a really nice clean engine bay. We don't want our hands and knuckles. Can you imagine reaching in the back of the engine bay to grab something and and then you come back with a bloody hand? It happens. And then so what we're going to do is also all of these holes that we don't need, that wires and hoses ran through at some point, we're going to make little patches for those and weld them up. But yeah, we don't need this kind of stuff. So
it's going bye-bye.
I remember doing this on the Z. Have a lot of fun, and I'm glad I'm not doing it. So we've got all of the tabs. Jamie took all the tabs off the front of the car. We still need to clean it up, but there's no unnecessary tabs or anything like that. But this right here, this is too much. We don't need this. We're going to be putting a really big radiator in it, a CSF radiator. So we're going to make our own mounts, plus we want the front end removable, but right now we just want to get rid of this stuff. So we're going to cut a bunch. Come on. You probably see from our faces today was a...
Oh, it was a full day.
Yeah.
We did all the stuff.
It looks so much better when you just keep cutting and cutting and cutting away from it, so...
We had to stop ourselves.
Yeah. I would say, like, with the Z, I kind of ran across the transmission tunnel being not that great, and I just cut it out, but because we're trying to stay with Global Time Attack Unlimited rules, we need to keep the transmission tunnel. We're going to have to figure out with the floors. The floors, obviously, we had to cut them out. Rules say that you got to keep them in, but we're going to do the best we possibly can with, like, OEM style flooring. That way we don't gain any advantages or anything like that. But yeah, we'll be probably keeping that back area.
Honestly,
firewall.
like, I don't think any advantage is gonna help me.
Yeah.
It's fine.
We did a lot of cutting today. It was
A lot of cutting and a lot of scraping.
and grinding, and we probably could have used dry ice to get all this stuff off. It would have probably been cleaner, but we didn't have any, and we were kind of, you know, in the moment just kept going with it. But we got a lot of the, like, the caulking out and all the sound deadening's out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We, for some reason, just have this one strip of foam, which it's kind of fun that it's still there.
Yeah, I'm not sure why, but we're like progressively moving back, and I'd say there's a couple things on the front we skipped. But that being said, like, I want to get in there whenever we have the subframes out to have more room. So
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, we'll have to go touch up a couple things in the front, or cut off a couple things on the front. But I'd say there's nothing left to cut off or really do, kind of in the cab. What do you think?
Just a couple small things.
Yeah.
You know, we gotta get rid of this emergency brake parts and a couple tabs, but overall, it was a really productive day.
Yeah. And
I'm
then
feeling really good about it.
I think we've got the trunk area to cover.
Yeah.
Cut those floors out. Kind of one side's already taken out because of the gas tank. The other is spare tire, floor.
Yeah.
So we'll end up just doing like a flat floor in the back. But
Yep.
feel pretty good. Well, it's a lot of work, man. I would say most people would be like, the car, just scrap it, or this is probably outside of our league. But I can assure you, I've been here, I've been in worse situations.
I haven't, but I trust it.
Yeah,
I'm trusting it.
I just keep thinking if I built the Z, we're good. That is, the Z was worst case scenario.
For sure.
So I guess until the next time, right? That's it for today. All right, so we're off to get another car off of Shawn and PSI's lot.
Another one.
I think we're just doing him a favor by cleaning out his back lot secretly. But anyways, we're gonna go pick up what's left of, I'm not sure what year 2000s, but it's something 2000s E46 BMW M3. So pretty rad car, but it's basically just a roller, so suspension and subframes and stuff like that. So it's going to be good for us to find pickup points and locations and measurements. That way we can take those suspension arms and all those suspension parts and subframes and add them to the BMW 2002. So that should be pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Should add a considerable width to the car. We did a similar thing to the Z. The Z is running mid-90s S13/S14 240 SX suspension, so it made the car considerably wider, but most importantly it updated the car to more readily available suspension parts and components, because everything for a BMW 2002 is very niche, and if you break apart, you're not going to be able to find on Craigslist a lower control arm or something like that at a local track. So
yeah,
the idea is to get a little bit more readily available parts and modernize the suspension quite a bit and make it super wide
and clean Shawn's lot.
Yes, yeah. I think that's really the thing that I got going on. So we're gonna make our way over there and say what's up to the boys. So we're at PSI.
Okay, so number one, my foot is very wet. I just stepped in a big puddle. And number two, this is the car and it's quite buried.
Here's our M3.
We are in for a treat getting this boy out.
Oh yeah, this is gonna be super fun. This is it's like the worst thing and the best thing, because really all we want is all the suspension stuff and subframes in the front and rear. So it's perfect to, you know, take off. But man, she's a little bit more buried in here than the last time we saw her. So
yeah,
this should be a ton of fun.
this is our brand new to us BMW M3. No engine, no roof, no doors. She's perfect. Time to get to work.
All right, so we now own a 1974 BMW 2002 and also a 2002 BMW M3.
I love that.
Right?
That's so cool.
We couldn't have picked that any better that they're both 2002s. That's pretty awesome.
Nothing's coincidence.
You're right. So kind of our plan was to update the suspension and geometry from, you know, the old tired 74 and modernize it with E46 suspension. And so our E46 has kind of an interesting story because once again it was found in the back lot of Shawn at PSI's lot. And thanks, Shawn. And so they got the M3 in because a customer had a non-M3. They wanted to make a race car out of it, so they took anything that's M3 off of it. So brakes, subframe, suspension, the body's wider on it, M3, all that stuff off of this convertible M3, and then they stuck all of the non-M3 suspension and stuff like that back on it to make it rollable. So although it looks like we got an M3, we actually didn't get an M3. We got an M3 body with regular...
Tricky.
Right, but it's actually what we want because the M3 is definitely like 2-3 inches wider than the regular E46. And a regular E46 325i is about almost 10 inches wider, roughly than the BMW 2002 74.
So what's this?
So this is a this is a 2002 BMW M3 body with 325i suspension underneath it. So M3 is just a performance model of the 325i, but they come you know, significantly wider, bigger motor, bigger brakes, all that stuff like that. So all the cool M3 stuff is taken off of our M3. With that being said, it works out good because it would just, the car, like we want a big wide stance with it, but after we put big wheels and everything on it, the car would be massively wide if this had M3 suspension on it. And,
so what kind of width are we gonna gain with these?
Roughly about 5 inches per side.
Cool.
And then we'll be able to dial the width in and the look in with wheels. Yeah. So since we don't have any boundaries, we're not trying to stay within inside, you know, fenders and stuff like that. We can kind of create whatever stance we want and then build the body around the wheels. So
have you shown them these bad boys yet?
Yeah, it's much like our current project. It's pretty rough. It's been cut up. It hasn't been taken care of because this was just a donor car. So but you know what? We're taking the last little bit of it off of it. You know, we're taking all the suspension components. So, you know, this thing just was much like our other 2002. It's gonna rot away in Shawn's back lot. So one last chance for this guy, right? So before it hits the crusher. Yeah, and so that's the plan, is to make this and this kind of coexist.
There will be one.
There will be one. There can only be one?
There can only be one. There will only be one.
Yeah, we don't want two.
No.
We just want one. So yeah, so next steps is to get the E46 in the air, pull the subframe suspension off that, get it outside, clean it up, the suspension components, and then try to stuff them underneath our yeah. It's actually surprisingly not too far off, because the Z, I have so 240SX suspension under my 240Z, and the 240SX is a considerably wider car as far as like suspension pickup points. But what surprised me is the M3 or, you know, E46 car, like coil buckets are actually really close to the width on that. So I was expecting to do some serious.
Oh yeah, they're set in.
Yeah, so I think there's maybe a 1 inch difference, so a ½ inch. So I can really work with that. Nice. I had to completely, that's the reason why the 240Z is completely tube chassis, is there's no way to make the suspension pickups from the factory work at all. Yeah. So it's kind of what I thought we were gonna get ourselves on this, but actually we can probably get a really nice plate made for the top and scoot it in and then weld that in, and we got our pickup points.
Sweet.
Yeah. So I don't think it'll be that bad. Rear, that's an animal.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
Let's get started.
Finally through the building.
Yeah.
Got the E46 in the shop.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was fun.
Yeah, that car doesn't roll very well at all.
Not at all.
Yeah, we basically drug it out of Shawn's back lot, cleaned up some mess back there. You're welcome, Shawn.
Mm-hmm.
But back on the 2002, I'm eating my words. In the very first episode, I'm like, oh, this car's great. I feel bad about cutting it up and all this.
I mean, I was going with it because, like, you know, but secretly, I was like, he's full of it.
Yeah. Well, I was really trying to preserve the floors in the car and the firewall and the transmission tunnel. But just with these old cars, you can spend weeks repairing old rot, and
we don't have weeks.
Right, and it's just this, like, you're welding brand new material to old material, and you've got all this patchwork, and it just, like, I'm too OCD about that kind of stuff. I want it nice, clean, one piece, and something that would take us weeks to do, we can really knock that out. And, you know, we can put all new floors in a transmission tunnel in this car in probably a weekend, you know,
nice.
two days. So just didn't seem worth.
Yeah.
I know we're trying to stay within unlimited rules. This is probably going to bump us up to pro comp, which means I got some new competition out there. But you know, we wanted to have a pro comp class car and an unlimited class car, but this thing's gonna make itself, much like the Z. It wants to be in pro comp, so we're gonna give it to it. So yeah, the floors were trashed, and just didn't seem worth fixing. So our next steps for the car is, what are we gonna do next?
Next, we're gonna build a dolly so that we can get the suspension off and swap with the E46.
Yeah, so with the car being low like this, it is tricky to work on, right?
For sure.
So if we build a dolly that's about 2 feet off the ground, it gets the car up higher, which makes it a lot easier to work on and stuff like that. But what we're gonna do is get basically the body. We're gonna take all the suspension underneath it and get the body at what we like off on the dolly is ride height, so super low.
Yeah.
Right, and then we're going to put all the suspension underneath it with factory geometry, so all the suspension arms are nice and straight, and then we're going to start mocking up making the E46 suspension permanent. So
cool.
We've got a bunch of new partners on board.
Yes.
Some new ones, some old ones. We got some partners that have been with me a really long time, helping us out on the BMW, so I'm really excited to work with them on that. But because we have BMW, we have some BMW specific partners where we brought on, which really excited about that. We got some pretty trick parts coming.
Can't wait to show you guys.
Yeah, bunch of really cool stuff. Like I said, if you're a fan of the Z at all, just wait till you see this thing. It's a mess right now, but make sure you subscribe and, you know, follow us and share it and all that stuff like that, because you're not going to want to miss an episode. It's a lot of kind of grimy hard work, but it's going to start coming together really fast.
Yeah.
Because why?
Because we only have a year.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much.
We don't have a choice.
I think our deadline for Evolution 1 of the car is just about a year. So we got some work to do. We'll be moving fast on it, but it's actually, we got to go right now because we got to get working on the car.
We don't have any time to waste.
Yeah. So go head over to attackingtheclockracing.com.
Check out a shirt.
Yep.
Check out a koozie if you like drinking.
Yep. Who doesn't?
I mean,
look how much I'm sweating right now.
Water. I love to drink water.
I'm sweating my butt off right now.
92 degrees in October.
I want a cold one with an Attacking the Clock Racing koozie on it. Stat. We'll see you next episode.
I'm
Thanks,
Jamie.
guys. I'm Shawn.
Peace.
Bye.